Good evening. It is Wednesday evening, and I'm very happy that you are praying with us. And we continue with our series on Proverbs, and tonight we come to 5 deadly traps. What we have here in Proverbs 6, we have 2 poems, but I'm going to handle them as one, and I'm doing that under the heading of 5 deadly traps. And the first one, this father wants to share with his son, is the trap of your words. He starts from verse 1. My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, if you have shaken hands in pledge for a stranger, you have been trapped by what you said, ensnared by the words of your mouth. Sometimes our words or our promises may entrap us, get us into trouble. In this section, the son is warned about a bad decision in one area of his life which will come back to bite him. It may have been good-hearted, meant to help someone else, but still it is foolish. The words in verse 1 that speaks about security was a way of saying a financial deal. In Genesis 43, Judah uses the word in a conversation with his father, when he pleaded with his father to let Benjamin go with him so they could get food in Egypt, saying, I will be surety for him. And this means becoming responsible for someone in the event of their misfortune or failure. So we learn 3 simple truths in these 5 verses. The first one, good intentions don't always end in good decisions. The father is addressing the choice to become collateral for a friend. Co-signing for a friend is done with nothing but good intentions. Helping out by offering a simple signature may be done with good intentions. Is that really a good decision? In this case, it legally binds you for the length of the loan to the character of another person. Despite the character of your friend on the day the loan is signed, no one can tell what his or her character will be on the days after the loan is signed. Meaning, intentions don't define our lives, decisions do. Secondly, good friendships don't always end in good relationships. He instructs his son in verse 3. So do this, my son, to free yourself. Since you have fallen into your neighbor's hands, go to the point of exhaustion. Give your neighbor no rest. The counsel is more about relationships than it's about money. Co-signing for a friend is dangerous for financial reasons, but it's even more dangerous for relationship reasons. Money so easily stirs negative emotions towards people. Money problems are heavily responsible for divorces, breakups, splits. So the point is, good friendships don't always end in good relationships. And thirdly, you will see there's a problem with conversations. The father adds some urgency to his counsel in verse 4 and 5. He says, allow no sleep to your eyes, no slumber to your eyelids. Free yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird from the snare of the fowler. We put off these difficult conversations with friends because they can be uncomfortable. The mistake in delaying the conversation is that it will probably then never take place. Risky decisions need to be reversed with a sense of urgency for the sake of the long-term friendship. This doesn't apply to only financial decisions. If you realize you made a decision that's risky or potentially detrimental to your relationship with God or with men, turn that observation into a conversation. The longer you wait to break up with a person that isn't good for your relationship with God, the more likely your long-term relationship with God will be in jeopardy. So, the second trap we are coming to, it has to do with the way of the sluggard. Go to the ant, O sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. Now, the sluggard is making bad decisions in many areas of his life. He's thinking of no one else. He's not even thinking of his own future. One day he'll find out his ability to choose all gone. The armed man puts a sword to his chin, takes away all his freedom. So the father advises his son in verse 6 to 8 to study the model of diligence in nature. It's interesting that we can learn from such an insignificant creature like an ant. And the sluggard needs to learn two lessons from the ant. First, ants do not need a chief, an officer, a ruler, or shall we say a policeman. And the ant, with her leader, prepares bread in the summer and gathers food in the harvest. Secondly, the ant seems to have a sense of time. As a result, is diligent with the time. The sluggard, on the other hand, does not sense time and is not at all diligent with the time allotted to him. On the other hand, the sluggard is characterized by two differing distinctives, verse 9 to 11. How long will you lie there, you sluggard? When will you get up from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. These verses are begun with the assumption that the sluggard is in bed sleeping. It's not as if the ant does not sleep, but the sluggard is always sleeping. As a result, all will be taken. All that the sluggard has and desires to have is taken by others. The ant does not allow this, for the ant is diligently storing and protecting the supply. Poverty does not come because someone stole the goods of the sluggard. The sluggard will slowly begin to lose all he has, as if a robber were secretly taking his possessions. The day will then arrive when the sluggard finally realizes that all he had vanished, and he will feel as if armed men came and destroyed him. So, seize every opportunity, because by giving in to procrastination, you're only stealing from yourself. The third deadly trap. Now, the first one is bad. The second one is worse. But the third one looks so innocent, and it has to do with friends. A troublemaker and a villain who goes about with a corrupt mouth, who winks maliciously with his eyes, signals with his feet, motions with his fingers, plots evil with deceit in his heart, always stirs up conflict. Therefore, disaster will overtake him. In an instant, he will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. Now, very important, parents, remember, it's a father's duty to teach his child what to watch out for. We discussed co-signing, who he needs to watch out for, the wicked. It's a mother's duty also to teach her child what type of person to evade and avoid. And the description in verse 12 to 16 is intended to help a young person identify the type of person they should avoid befriending. Let's quickly look at these ways. In the first place, he's referring to his way of life, which is often described in terms of walking. A wicked person can be identified by their mouth. How a person talks defines how a person walks. If a person has a perverted mouth, then you can be sure that they have a perverted manner of life. When we wink, secondly, we are communicating something secret. Oftentimes a wink is seen as something innocent and playful, but here it is used to describe something harmful and hurtful. Avoid a person who uses winks to communicate, for he cannot be trusted. Thirdly, you can tell a person's moral nature by their body language. A wicked man will get creative and use any means of communication in order to get what they want. The point is, avoid such a person. 4. There's no greater illustration of this fourth description in our modern day than the person who communicates with one finger on their hand, in particular, the tallest finger in the middle of their hand, without saying a word. They taught me often that they are the type of person, especially when driving in front of you, that jumps to conclusions and judgments. And the point is, avoid such a person. Number 5. After describing the wrong man's visible and audible characteristics, the Father can now describe in verse 14 the invisible, inaudible characteristics. What comes out of your mouth reveals what goes on in your heart. 6. A person who winks with his eyes and speaks with his feet reveals what's going on in his head. A person who's crafting mischief is a very self-centered person. He's always looking for an opportunity to get something from someone. And let me interrupt myself for a moment. Often in counseling, people will tell me, my mother warned me against this man or against this woman, but I did not want to listen. 7. Because this person is devising mischief continually. They are going to eventually sow discord. A person who is surrounded or involved in drama should be avoided, for it reveals a wicked nature. Now, if you look at verse 15, the most important verse in the Father's counsel, fathers need to teach their children how to identify a wicked person. They must learn what eventually happens to such a person. Because of their wickedness, they will suddenly be broken, and that without remedy. When it comes to making friends with wrong people, young people especially don't see any harm with befriending morally questionable people because they don't see any harmful ramifications. They don't see the drug-selling friend getting arrested and put in jail for years. Oftentimes they see the opposite. They see the drug-selling or stealing friend getting rich. But the wicked should be avoided because eventually God's mercy will step back on them. And then the fourth deadly trap, and we read it in verse 16. There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. So the father has a responsibility to remind his son how God regards sin. According to verse 16, he hates them. And more than that, according to verse 17, they are an abomination to him. The word abomination is used for something that is so horrible that it evokes feelings of intense dislike. Now let's quickly look at them. Arrogance, the haughty eyes; lying, the lying tongue; murdering, hands that shed innocent blood; planning wickedness, a heart that devises wicked schemes; executing wickedness, feet that are quick to rush into evil; bearing false witness, a false witness who pours out lies; and a capstone, spreading family strife, a man who stirs up dissension. So, very, very important. What a deadly trap. Let's go to the last one. Now, the last one, you will see, you can divide it into 2 sections. The first one has to do with the trap of not listening, but it's the same trap. Parental instruction serves as a combatant to evil. The guidance is your first line of defense. So often you'll say, why didn't I listen? I was warned. So let's see what verse 20 to 24 says. My son, keep your father's command and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Bind them always on your heart. Fasten them around your neck. When you walk, they will guide you. When you sleep, they will watch over you. When you awake, they will speak to you. For this command is a lamp. This teaching is a light, and correction and instruction are the way to life, keeping you from your neighbor's wife, from the smooth talk of a wayward woman. So his parents were laying foundation so that he would be faithful to his wife when he eventually married. The way of wisdom then continues. And it reminds us, and I do not have the space on the next slide to show all the verses. Can a man scoop fire into his lap without his clothes being burned? Can a man walk on hot coals without his feet being scorched? Verse 29 says, so is he who sleeps with another man's wife. No one who touches her will go unpunished. But a man who commits adultery has no sense. Whoever does so destroys himself. Blows and disgrace are his lot, and his shame will never be wiped away. For jealousy arouses a husband's fury, and he will show no mercy when he takes revenge. He will not accept any compensation. He will refuse a bribe, however great it is. Now, can you see again the responsibility of parents to discuss these things with their children? Now, when we look at our points for prayer tonight, I do it a slightly different way. Christianity Today, that famous magazine, asked Ukrainian evangelical leaders to help readers enter their war-torn world by sharing a glimpse of it. So what they did, they took a number of Christian leaders, they asked them, what are you praying for? And what they said, I'm going to put on the screen now. Taras Dertling, the man that's involved with the Theological Training Center, he says there are 3 stages of need. He says, first of all, to evacuate, to relocate, to find safe locations. But he says, I'm praying for my wife. for many other wives who refuse to be evacuated while their husbands stay behind. I am also praying that this war will shake the conscience of humanity and the theology of the church. No longer, he says, can we elevate a nationalism that so often requires others to be brought low. They ask the president of the Odessa Theological Seminary what he's praying for. And he says, I'm praying, number 3, that this war will shake the conscience of humanity and the theology of the church. They ask the Foreign Affairs Director of the Ukrainian Pentecostal Church what he's praying for. He says, number 4, he says, our lives have been smashed. Our souls have been burned. There's no end in sight. And I think you can agree to that. I think we need to understand. He says that we pray for the wholeness of our country to be restored. We need God to give spiritual insight, moral clarity to the world. Then this storm can turn against the aggressors, disperse them. Another leader says, for supernatural restoration during short nights of sleep, some need deliverance from post-traumatic stress. They ask another Christian leader, he says, amid the darkness of war, I'm praying for the evangelization of the nations in the Russian Federation with the gospel hidden by the black robes of the priests. Number 7, another leader says, Eurasia and the Middle East are at the epicenter of God's end-time prophecies. So we need understanding for how to behave both now and in the terrible events to come. Number 8, that the lies and deception that characterize so many issues and histories will drive Christians to better discipleship in how to be the light in the times we are living. Number 9, another Christian leader said to endure this hardship we are going through, but with wisdom to know how to best continue serving those around us. We are also praying for miracles, that as God meets the physical needs of people, He will also give peace to their soul. Through it all, His name will be glorified. Then number 10, I'm praying for strength and courage in leadership. I'm praying that God will show His power and make the gospel shine. So as you are interceding this week, please pray for the Ukrainian church. Let's pray even for our country. Thank you for joining us.